So Greta Thunberg that cannot argue piece her arguments together to make a sound philosophical argument. Right now she's saying free Palestine because the penguins are dying. Say free Iran because Ayatollah Khamenei is a douchebag. Amen. That's a true cause and that's true human suffering. That's what at the head of the world should be looking at right now. Mamela, my nose is running, leave me be. As long as don't nobody be touching my nose, like don't nobody be touching my tush. Okay? Greta should be standing with her flotilla for the right issues, but she is not being influenced to stand for the right issues because the mainstream media is not planting a proper narrative, and our big bosses who run the world are standing with a birthday party of a country that is starving its people, that is robbing its people of water, and that is also ascertaining that its people don't gain economic freedom and also religious oppression. That is what is going on over there. So if the United Nations is going to stand in a neat little bunch and stand with Iran, while South Africa is allowed unfettered to stand with Iran and celebrate their weird birthday, do you not see that the world has got entities chilling on it? That it's got stuff that's scrambling people's brains? Because how is our South Africa standing with a regime that's doing to Iranians what was done to them as black people in apartheid? Don't make no kind of sense. And yet, still Ramaphosa stands with Khamenei, not only that, but against the Iranian people to a point of just slapping them in the face with that. And today, with support of their little birthday, and I was so upset today when I was listening to Eric Stakelberg. I felt disillusioned. I felt out of my element. Saddened, like I, in and of myself, am never going to be set free. Because I was like, listen, but what's on earth? And when is this ever going to end? When is this ever going to end? Because, I mean, who am I as this like mere mortal of a minuscule, infinitesimal, no-brainer of a band content creator? Who am I ever going to, like, who am I in comparison to like a whole country like Iran? When the some Human Rights Commission, I believe of the United Nations, made a decision to vice chair some official from Iran. Listen, you guys, like, I don't know what's happening, okay? Like, the world is just loco. I don't know what's going on. Like, jokes aside, I'm in absolute agony right now over what's going on because I am feeling disillusioned about even my own life. Who am I? When am I ever going to get set free? When the United Nations Human Rights Commission has vice-chaired some Iranian douchebag. I don't get that. Listen, I don't get it. How in the world is, first of all, Anthony Guterres says happy birthday or happy celebration of coming of age or whatever. And then after that, they place a dude as a vice chair that is from the country that's killing its youth for human rights. When young people are being killed for not wanting to wear hijabs, they can't even vote. That's a human right in many of our democracies. Because, I mean, really, of course they would vote Khamenei out. He's a despot, a sovereign. And yet, one of its members, its leader people, is a vice chair. Maybe that's why they feel so confident that they're going to be okay. The thing, if I should let Donald Trump out here, have Iranian summits, I guess they call it an Iran summit, but talking about the nuclear deal, why is there still any negotiations? I don't understand. I'm very disillusioned about Donald Trump. Let's just put that out. I am disillusioned as at present. I desire to have restored faith in him. But I am disillusioned at present, just as many people are disillusioned. I was watching this one heartbreaking video, indeed from, again, JNS podcast, where it is that a video of a young Iranian man, looked like he could have been in his 20s, was out there doing a goodbye video, like a suicide note, saying, Donald Trump, you told us to go in the streets and riot. I cried. You told us to go in the streets and riot. And now you're out there trying to negotiate with the Iranian regime. So if at all you see this video, I'm already dead. So the young man committed suicide. Because for him, just like me, he could not fathom living under this oppression much longer. What are global leaders doing trying to negotiate? Listen, there is a mind virus just coursing, metastasizing through the brains of global citizens where they're not standing with the right causes. Whereas, however, in history, there was a marked difference in how they responded to similar inputs into an ecosystem. They responded differently with apartheid, with the Holocaust, and many other oppressive states across the world. They stood with the right people, just basically making moral decisions. And now the same thing is not happening, and I don't understand. Listen, I don't understand. I do. I spoke about it in my last video. I spoke about how it's a moral issue. I think a spiritual issue. It's a spiritual war. It is a spiritual issue. There is Semyazi hanging out on people's countries, making Nephilim out of people. Global cults are thoroughly trying to take the whole planet to hell. And my thing with that is, in the Lord's word, it is written that 2 Timothy 4 type evil men and imposters who wax worse deceiving and being deceived are just that. They're deceiving and they're also being deceived. So you cannot go to hell hitting the ground running, willingly, happy to hop in there knowingly. You have got to be deceived. So you're evil men and you're imposters and you're waxing worse and you're deceiving the world right next to in and of yourself deceived, because no one goes into hellfire diving in there like an Olympic swimmer, just willingly. People are sending themselves to the abyss. It's like the world is becoming so nefarious, so dark, And for me, it's like, when is anybody going to wake up? Exactly. When is the planet ever going to open their eyes and spot Waldo in the painting? Where is Waldo? Who is Waldo? Waldo is morality. Where is Waldo? Waldo is sobriety. Where is Waldo? When are we ever going to identify Waldo in this painting? Waldo is also like Carmen San Diego. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Just out here missing and very hard to find an elaborate painting that's got lots and lots of activity in it, and so it takes you a cool hour to find this here random Waldo. World morality is findable, it's identifiable, but it is Waldo in an intricate, labyrinth-like, maze-like, absolutely occupied, busy painting that's got too much going on it. So it takes you a cool 3 hours to find Waldo. Global sobriety is like Waldo. And the only thing that's going to help people find this here Waldo, who is making like a needle in a haystack, is by an omnipresent God that is able to identify a needle in a haystack without taking 20 years. Morality on earth is Waldo, y'all. It's Waldo. It's gone, it's dusted, it is done, and it appears we're not going to find her until it's too late. And y'all are enduring catastrophes upon catastrophes, and only then you're gonna wake up from your most awesome slumber. And so discover that that's why every female's tush is being touched in these streets. Like it's Guillaume Bully in his studio. Touch me in my studio, touch me. Yeah, you're gonna have to be old like me to know what I just said over there. And you're also gonna have to be South African. It's giving morning live. Anyway, I mean, like global morality is like Waldo, and don't nobody know where the dude is at. It's like Carmen San Diego, and don't nobody know where the oak is hanging out. Nobody knows, but he's somewhere in the painting. He cannot be there, otherwise it's a robbery. Otherwise it's a trick. Otherwise this here gamer is playing with the minds of gaming people. Don't do it. Game creator. Oh, Messalidi minds is about to the puzzle. And that's not fair game, so Waldo is in this painting. All of y'all's consciences are in this painting. You cannot stand with all this awful politics and anticipate that you're going to be cool with the world. And like I said, Guterres has been around for too long, like a president that just won't skedaddle despite being voted out of power. And also, people are not standing for the right issues, and that's why presidents are being touched the tushes off. Of course, presidents are going to be touched that are female. The tushes off when UN women refuses to stand with raped Israeli victims. So there was like a whole catastrophic mind virus doing its thing in the brains of global citizens, and I'm not here for that. Are you here for that? Are you hanging 10, swinging on a hammock like a homie with all that? Are you sipping a drink out of a coconut with a swirly straw at Zanzibar with big fat chunky shade out here soaking in the sun with no worries at all pertaining all that? I don't think so. You're not hanging. You're all trepidatious, anxious, scared, shaking in your boots, and so you can't rest and having insomnia. You all therefore do everything in your power to try and find Waldo, because right now Angas with you Angas. Okay, so seeing as we have put that out there, I don't want to digress. I digress for like a cool hour, but I'm back to like where I wanted to speak about more top establishment thing. Censorship on earth is out here doing strange things, because why is the world not trying to locate Waldo? Why is the planet not trying to locate Waldo? Why is the earth not trying to find where this here rando be at? Because when I first started writing in my blog, people were still sober. That was in 2012. And my content was being proliferated by WordPress. And if I had started a YouTube channel back then, I might have been able to grow a decent amount of subscribers. But somewhere along the way, there was such a clamp down on never mind free speech, but in particular Christian speech, to a point where my brother on CBN News, who is a gamer, a gaming content, a gaming creator, can't advertise his Christian game on TikTok advertising right next to Google, who censored him. And at a symposium that he went to, at a gaming symposium he went to, where he met other Christians who also create gaming or other sort of kind of things of this nature, like what do you call this, like crafts of this nature. He was uncomfortably related with by so very many people that it basically made it evident that we are under a coup strategy, not so much by crazy people who are the CEOs of Ofcom, but Satan himself. Like I said, it's giving Semyazi, Leviathan, Beelzebub. It's Prince of the Power of the Air all the day long. It's Abaddon. It is the angels holding the great king held in chains at the great river Euphrates. It's like all of it has just come cataclysmically on the earth. It's scorpions that are the size of human beings eating people, feeding them for 5 months, but it's prematurely here on earth, seeing as we're not yet in the tribulation. It's tribulation-esque. That's why the body of Christ thinks the world is over, but the world can't be over. Because if you're going to be any kind of serious about Bible prophecy, you will discover there's too much that still needs to be fulfilled before Israel can be a land of unwalled villages, etc. I spoke about that in my other video. I'm not going to labor on it. We're not yet at the end. So if we're not at the end, are we not about to endure a most heinous dark ages? Because Semyazi is hanging out, chilling like he's at a swimming pool, in like a man bathing suit, thoroughly trying to make all of y'all think that he's a proper person to be embracing in your stride. There is a cataclysmic global spiritual dumbing down that has made all of y'all insist on incinerating sober voices at the expense of even your own peace, at the expense of your nation's recognizability, at the expense of what makes for a proper, comfortable, cushy, beanbag-like country to live in. That which you grew up recognizing, seeing it in the face as, oh, this is home, I like it. Now you can't stand it to a point where Escarabo, I want to defect from South Africa, but where am I going to go? It appears there's no way I can put my uncomfortable feet down because of the fact that Semyazi is hanging out in every last one of our countries. Because why is Anthony Guterres out here in the climate of all this tyranny in Iran, with all these hundreds and thousands of people dying over there, celebrating their birthday, their coming of age, right next to place in the Human Rights Commission of the United Nations, some Iranian random to sit over there when they won't even allow their people to vote, and when they kill women for wearing hijabs? Something is terribly wrong with the world. Never mind my here gnarly country. Eric Stackelback Are, America is holding the line for morality in the West. And if Donald Trump leaves office and there come in a leftist president in the coming administration, listen, it's almost going to be like the restrainer is going to be lifted off all of Western civilization. Until Semyazi is hanging even very comfortably in countries like the US. Because already in Australia and the United Kingdom, they're arresting people for free speech. Western civilization is crazy. And there appears to be only one Western nation left holding the line. And in Africa, there is this like horrible infiltration by Islam and tons of corruption, too much for us to be any kind of reasonable or sustainable restrainer, any kind of believable restrainer on wickedness on earth. We are already struggling with our own very tired politicians. By tired, I mean namby-pamby, lazy, ridiculous, and corrupt, out-reducing the system. African politicians are famous, notorious, like they're Mr. B.I.G. for corruption. So Africa cannot be a voice of reason on earth because there are just so many inefficiencies in Africa, thwarting all of us, keeping us a third world, for us to successfully prosper, to be that which is holding the line of global morality. So after, in 2028, when Donald Trump is out of office, and if the Democrats win that election, it's the Mamela, loose cannons giving dam walls are broken, waters are flooding, and you're now taking over, but we're not there, we can't be, because so much Bible prophecy has to happen. We're not there. Remember what I speculated the other day about how it is that even the UAE, likely why they thwarted America going into Iran to rescue the situation over there, was because of Islam and no other thing. Finally, Meira K admitted that that's likely what's going on, and that's why there's so much resistance over the fall of the Iranian regime, because in Islam, once a nation has been Islamized, it would be a most terrific travesty for them to lose that country. And so insofar as Islam can be pontificated, they will maintain it whether or not they're in agreement pertaining Shia or Sunni. And herein lies the UAE being somewhat at odds with Iran, yet nonetheless appear to be in cahoots with the maintenance of the Iranian regime, precisely because of the attempts to maintain Iran as an Islam theocracy. They will then deal with their differences later. And Meira K finally did a documentary where she spoke about that. I love her videos because she's very informative and extremely knowledgeable and very studied. So I'm grateful for her work. And when she came with that vantage point, I was like, I might not be a historian. I might not be all that knowledgeable about global truths and frankly what made countries what they are today. But I had that as a speculation from a vantage point where I'm a Christian. I had that as something coming from I had that as a speculation coming from the vantage point of being a Christian. For no other reason but the prophecy given to Hagar when she was in the wilderness, imaginative that she's going to pass away with her child Ishmael. And the angel told Hagar that therein lies a brook of water. Go and drink with your child because I'm going to make him a great nation. And he is going to be a wild man, and everybody's going to be against him, and he will be against everybody, and he will live among his brothers. So the fulfillment of the prophecy over Ishmael is pretty much what's going on right now with Islam. But since the world will be at odds with Ishmael, he's not going to conquer. The only one that prospers to take the world over is Isaac, because that's where the promise of the proliferation of God comes through. So the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ is preached to all the world, and then the end comes. That comes through Isaac, and not so much Ishmael. So Ishmael will be resisted to the point of being driven back like 4C hair reverting after being washed following a silk press to the Middle East. In order for Islam to go back reverting to the Middle East again, it has to be driven out of countries, but only because it has become so emboldened in those countries. It has become so big, it has become so well received in so many countries that it got so violent, and it got so emboldened that it became super violent in trying to convert everybody to Islam, until the world frankly rose up against Ishmael and drove Ishmael back to the Middle East, following which he then made a decision, now that he has been weakened, to then formulate an allying with those coalition of countries in the Battle of Gog and Magog to try and take Israel, because now they've been taken back to the Middle East. But that will take like a minute to happen. It will take a minute to happen. And Meira, okay, agreed. Did a whole video basically speaking all this. And of course, coming from the vantage point of being a historian, she's very, very knowledgeable on history and all these countries and where they come from. She's very, very knowledgeable. I would imagine that's likely what she studied at a higher learning institution. She knows lots about what's going on with countries and all their histories. Extremely gifted, that Shiki. I love her. Okay, yeah. She was speculated as a political analyst and a historian that it appears as if though the UAE, likely the reason why they're sort of kind of standoffish in enabling America to do our work over there in Iran is because they just want to maintain any kind of Islam anywhere, whether or not they're at odds or at enmity with America. I already did that speculation, but like I said, coming from the vantage point of being a Christian and not so much a historian, I am speaking from the vantage point of the prophecy spoken over Ishmael, as opposed to having all the knowledge of Meira. But look at us converging in this particular, what do you call this thing? In this particular thought pertaining what's going on, Gatam, she finally came to a point of being not so much in agreement, but speculating the same thing I speculated from the vantage point of the Bible. So if people that study the streets can come to a conclusion that the Bible says will be reached, Mamela, whatever it is that is going on with Waldo right now must be found. Waldo must be found. Waldo, of which I spoke earlier, is global sobriety, global sense, global wits, global morality. You must find yourselves back home. Because if you don't find yourselves back home, Bible prophecy can't be fulfilled. Especially the portion in Matthew 24 that says the gospel of the kingdom of the Lord Jesus Christ must be preached to all the world, and then the end will come. Ishmael cannot prosper. Islam cannot prosper. And neither can global incendiary thought pertaining Ishmael ever prosper. Free Palestine, Shmi Palestine, it's giving Narnia all the day long. Shout out to Amaya Tusi. He called it Narnia because it's non-existent, just like Narnia. Okay, yeah, that's gotta stop. That whole Free Palestine movement gotta somehow twist in the wind until it evaporates. Yeah, like some water after like a sunny day. It's gotta evaporate, and then people have got to be reverted to their senses as to what makes for decency in countries. Otherwise, y'all are gonna endure a zombie apocalypse, Mamela. You've literally been bitten, and unless you find a vaccine to revert all that nonsense, nobody's gonna live. Like, how are you standing with Iran? Anyway, whatever. Even that standing with Iran is because Waldo is missing, and Waldo is hard to find in like a painting. And with Waldo being hard to find in a painting, however he is there, he must be, because it is impossible for him not to be there. He must be found through excruciating intercession, and the omnipresent God identified that needle that is Waldo in that haystack, that you might be recovered to sense. Do you understand? That there, Waldo, that's missing is also the reason why you are thoroughly trying to go to hell as a global concert. You are thoroughly trying to eliminate, eradicate, and eviscerate Christianity, even in countries that were built by Christianity. Don't nobody understand why in the United Kingdom, for instance, there are so many protections to a point of putting it in statute of Islam at the expense of Christianity that built that country. Some of you are like some of the baddest saints in the game that made the nation what it is today are from the UK. John Huss, Martin Luther, whatchamacall, this here oak, Wycliffe, John Wycliffe. Listen, Europe has produced some of the baddest fathers of the faith, Augustine. The whole entire continent has been made what beautiful, like stunning glory that it is today by Christianity, or variations, or even Catholicism. So if your principles that are Western have been founded, or in not so much founded that too, but what I wanted to say is inspired by Christian thought, why are you trying to eliminate that and eviscerate your culture? I mean, I'm feeling Georgia Maloney, like I said, sisters are doing it for themselves. Yeah, no, that's a lady in office that makes all kinds of sense. Georgia Maloney in Italy hooked up a decree over there in Italy on some Mamela. If y'all don't want to assimilate and be part of our culture and learn our language and learn our dress code and essentially be part of Italy, you don't get to hang here. Go make like a flower and bloom. If you're gonna chill in Italy and make yourself like an Italian, assimilate like, who is this gentleman that obviously is from somewhere in Africa, but he's now staying in Italy. He's like a big fat chunky content creator, the biggest one that we all know on TikTok. I love his content. He's always like, oh, I can't forget his name. I know that I know his name. The dude also, now he's Italian, right? But obviously he's from somewhere else. I don't know where, but he's obviously from some other part, from like an African country. His family, I don't know if he was born in Italy or naturalized over there, but he is now an Italian citizen. And look at him assimilate into Italian culture and not wreak havoc in Italian life. That's what under heaven it is, that when you go to a foreign country, you need to be out here respecting their culture, their language, their everything. Kabi Lane, of course, I was gonna find him. Duh, you thought I was gonna forget? I saw you. Anyway, Kabi Lane is from Italy, is Italian. Okay, and he has assimilated into Italian culture. So he's out here being able, as an African man, to just hang out there like a 10. So if Kabi Lane can do it, what's with Islam? If Islam is out here gonna hijabify all of Italy, then indeed, Georgia Maloney makes all kinds of sense to say, Mamelang Randos, you come to our country, you hang here 10, and you make like an Italian. But if you don't want to make like an Italian, skedaddle, because as a nation, we get to keep our cultural identity. We do. We get to keep our cultural identity. And hence why don't nobody be out here touching Georgia Maloney's tush. Could learn a lesson of Francesca Albanese from Georgia. She's respected even by men over there. I spoke in my last video about how it is that Deborah was respected by men over there, by Barack, by everyone, because she was a righteous lady. So when you're all uncouth and unholy, you be getting your tush handled. Okay, handled. Anyway, whatever. So Georgia Maloney basically just kind of called a spade, and congratulations, rah, Italians are spared. And the other day I was even listening to this one commenter from the United Kingdom. She's all frana, like a nut game. It's a fruit. From the UK, a black lady, and she was saying, why under heaven, when white people lament and throw their toys out the cot about maintaining white culture in a predominantly white nation, are you calling it an affront to human rights and civilization at large, when you as a man from Africa want to largely maintain your Africanness in your country? You as a lady from like somewhere like the culture, give me like maybe like a very rich in culture South American nation like Brazil. If you want to maintain Brazilian culture in Brazil, you do right? Because that's your nationality and it's your nation's identity and your nation's culture. Why is it, however, that white folk are supposed to be all shy, abashed about wanting to maintain a majority white population and also a majority white culture in a historically Caucasian country? Like, why is Europe not allowed to maintain its Eurocentricity as Europe? Like, it's just all problematic that white folk are being given all that kind of grief. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I love that this came from a black woman, because here in South Africa, we are a black nation, and you know how earlier I lamented against how in apartheid, the small minority of white people that came from the Netherlands and from the Deutschland, I guess that would be the Netherlands, they rocked up over here with their Jan van Riebeck, some of them of which also came from England, and they colonized and enslaved, and they were of course a minority as at that date, and yet somehow they prospered to incarcerate people that were found in the land, people that were found over here. They prospered to incarcerate black folk, and Indian folk were not found here. They came as well as slaves from India, I believe brought here by the Englishmen, right? They rocked up over here and then populated Godeben, and then there's the coloreds who are, I guess, a combination of black and white. So they make up the majority of the country. And then there's like a small population of white folk. We as black people in South Africa are maintained as the largest demographic. And not just demographic, but we are also maintained as the largest cultural influence in the country, to a point where when you go out there travel, if you go to Sandton, if you go anywhere, you will see lots and lots of like, while we might have Europeanized. Listen, I don't know what the adverb is over there. While we might have Europeized a lot of our infrastructure, nonetheless, if you go to like very elaborate 5-star hotels, when you get inside, there's lots of African print. There's lots of like, never mind print, but stats like ornaments, like things that like, stuff like this, decorating hotels. Do you understand? Or even hotels being named in like gentrified white neighborhoods with black names, like Indaba Hotel in Fourways. Do you understand? They maintain an African cultural, like corporate identity. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we're in South Africa. You want people to see Bozolobo, Kosabo, Pedi, Bozolobo, Ndebele, whatever. You want them to see the 11 official languages all up in there. So we pride ourselves in trade and in tourism in showing people South African culture. And South African culture is largely emulated by not so much white culture in this country, but rather black culture, because we are the majority and we are the ones that were found here first. And while Boera Afrikaans culture is also pushed a lot in tourism, it is not nearly as pushed as black culture, as something to draw people to come and look at the country, right? People are attracted to Africanism when they come to Africa, and we have maintained that and are proud of it. So in Europe, why not them be able to maintain that as Scotsmen, as the Netherlanders, as the Italians and the Spanish, whatever. So therein lies then Georgia Maloney making a decision that I don't care what you gotta say, call me racist, call me fascist. She's been called a fascist. Call me whatever you want to call me, but at the end of the day, we're Italy and we're going to maintain Italian culture. We are rich and poignant. People know what we're like on television shows. When you think Italy, you be thinking, okay, fine, so you be thinking gangsters. When I think Italy, I'm thinking mafia because of Al Pacino. So largely when I think of Italy, I think mafia, but not just that. My sister studied in Italy for a season. So I also think certain cuisine. I think of a certain landscape, right? And it gets to be maintained that way because we all get to maintain our cultures. Even heaven is rich with diversity. People from all different kinds of kindreds and spaces and joints are in heaven from all different tongues. And I would imagine that, heaven apparel, listen, I don't know what it's going to look like in the future. Are we just wearing white robes for all of eternity? Or are we going to be able to maintain the sari as Indians, or the beads as Africans that are, however, not satanic or whatnot? I don't know. But we definitely are going to be from all different kinds of kindreds and tongues out here worshiping the Lord Jesus Christ. So of course God wants to maintain national identities as national identities, because even in the scriptures, he speaks about people from all kindreds, nations, and tongues with all their diversity entering into God's rest. So people get to maintain their cultural nuances, but white people are not allowed to keep stuff like that. It is in these kinds of thoughts that make for common sense. These kinds of thoughts that make for common sense that are causing people to be thwarted on social media. Liberal politics is a mind virus. Do you understand? Like, this is the kind of stuff that's causing so much censorship that a platform like Gab would out here cease to receive international donations because it is trying to maintain sobriety and largely Christian Judeo thoughts. Well, let me just say Christian, because Gab is anti-Semitic. Let me not say Gab in total is anti-Semitic, but certainly a CEO is, okay? Not anti-Semitic, but they want to maintain Christian values. And these here Christian values are the very thing that that conservative politics is largely founded on. And if you're going to be at so much odds with conservative politics to a point of this level of censorship until a person can't even get donations internationally because of what they said based on their Christian Judeo ethos, you are thwarting reasonable thought, honor, and out here infiltrating with all of your insistence culture shocks in countries that have been acclimated or accustomed to certain value sets, right? This is giving culture shock across Europe. It's giving culture shock in Australia. It's giving culture shock in America, if at all Trump gets out of office and Democrats win the next election. It's going to be a culture shock on people on the ground that, are we seriously being thwarted based on this? When our constitutions, our bills of rights, and our value set is founded on these values. Censorship on earth is premised around leftist doctrine that is bizarre, that is antagonistic to that which most of our countries were valued or premised upon to establish culture. Censorship is going against all of this. Censorship is going against our belief in marriage between man and woman, and it being the only institution that makes all kinds of sense. And us being at odds with anything trying to pervert this is being censored. We are also being censored on trying to proliferate that which has made our country sober. God and many of Western nations is God. Many of the Western nations is a God. Is Jesus. It's the God of the Bible. And so if you are going to go and grab a man living in the West that is a gaming platform creator based on him creating gaming for Christian Judeo values in the West as, okay, fine, so China is just anti-atheistic, so TikTok, we can get him being banned over there, but Google is American. Like, what's going on? What is happening? How are you going to restrict movement of a Christian gamer's gaming adverts on a Western platform based on you not wanting to proliferate the very thing that founded you as a nation and made you this powerful civilization that you now today are? How are you going against all that? And how do you think that in so going against the very thing that is the foundation, the connective tissue that made you stand the way that you stand today, how do you think that when you try to break that down, break that as a civilization concerted, you will stand? Listen, it is the beginning of the end of all of you. It is the beginning of the end of all of you. And even in Africa, while we might come from witchy, ancestral worshipping roots, we nonetheless, within that witchy, ancestral worshipping space, we're largely conservative. Listen, this is so taboo. It's so bizarre what's going on earth right now. We might not be Christian in Africa from the roots, but rather just worshipping strange other things. But even those strange other things that were worshipped were conservative. They also believed in marriage. While Africa is hugely polygamistic, it nonetheless did believe in heterosexuality. Do you understand what I'm saying? And respect of the patriarchy. The way that now today there is just such little respect for the authority of men. But with the little respect for the authority of men, then has also come a chunk of misogyny on the part of them retaliating against boldly feminized women to the extent of even trying to eradicate manhood altogether. And it's then effeminizing men, making them little girly girls. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, but those are the hegemonic structures of Africa. They were patriarchal. That is being antagonized by an insistence, not so much of liberating women, but matriarching women, which is problematic. God made men to lead. So it's problematic in itself. And secondly, the disregard of heterosexuality, the disregard of heterosexuality, the disrespect of heterosexuality, and freedom of expression. Okay, so Africa has never ever under heaven been rich with allowing people to speak, especially women, so there they need transformation. Mara, in Western culture, it is shocking, just absolutely horrific, how somebody merely voicing their opinion can get arrested when they have been founded on liberties of that nature. How do you think you're going to go forward? And then what's worse as well is that you out here protecting a religion, Islam. Do you understand? At the expense of your founding religion, Christianity, to a point of legislating the protection of Muslims in the United Kingdom, while there is no such legislation for the protection of Jews, or even the protection of Christians, or even the protection of Hindus, any other religious group. They're listen, come up with statutes to protect Muslims. Have you seen the Iranian regime? Have you seen what goes on down in those streets? Do you want to look like that one day as Europe? No. So the moment you start out, you're putting human rights for just Muslims and no one else. You are creating a theocracy for Islam. And that's going to be the thing that's going to cause you to kick him out of your countries, because he will get emboldened and violent. I found out the other day that something like 30% of politicians in the United Kingdom are Muslim. Duh, that's why this is happening. It's giving Mamdani in New York. Proper, stealth, making insidious, secretive, clandestine, surreptitious infiltration through Turkey into Western democracies until they become nice and Muslim. And that needs to be brought to a blistering end, but despite it being necessary to bring that to a blistering end, it's got protections in the laws over there. And nobody knows what's giving, what's up, what's down, what's spinning on the spot like a ballerina. Nobody knows. Listen, absolutely nobody knows. We're all in the pitch of night pertaining understanding over there. It's all foggy and dark. So this here thwarting of freedoms of expression, but it's not really thwarting freedoms of expression. It's freedom of certain people's expression. It's freedom of conservative expression, and also freedom of maintenance of our deeply held historical roots that are not fascist or immovable. We're not bigoted, okay? It wasn't broken, you're trying to fix it. What is with the chaos of not believing that only women can have children? What is the most dramatic catastrophe of not rightly believing that people with Adam's apples should not wear heels? I mean, what is with the lack of a reverence for the reality that there's something just absolutely traumatizing about the loss of a handsome man to the LGBT community? It's like, goodness, another one bites the dust. How many are we going to lose exactly? What's the quota of gay Jews that are now unmarriable by perfectly single, marriable ladies? How many of us be out to making spinsters at 41 because our men are wearing heels? It's a travesty. And then there are the chicks out here smooshing in the corners like they're naughty girls and boys in high school experimenting with their hormones, except they're the same sex. Okay. And then they take it all the way to the extreme of getting married. Don't know how you be groping each other's breasts in the bedroom, but you're attempting, you're achieving it, you're doing it to the point where you think you're feasible. But you are not. It is catastrophic, and it is contributing to the reduced birth rates across the very Europe that is blocking free speech when you speak out against this community. And when then you eviscerate birth rates, you eviscerate your nation men. So who's going to replace you exactly? When there aren't enough white folk, black folk, whatever folk that are blood born in that joint, European. What's going to happen when there's not enough of you being born? After all, you're a gay couple. You can't have 7 babies. It's too expensive, these adoption processes. You know what's going to happen? Islam, who still perfectly adore the institution of marriage, who still perfectly disregard the legitimacy of men being with men and women being with women, and who are besotted with polygamy, out here be popping babies one after the other in that European country of yours until there is more of them than there are of you, while you're still out here pushing gay rights at the expense of those who are trying to evangelize people out of a lifestyle of homosexuality. So you've got like a whole Islam takeover, and Ishmael is gonna make like a wild animal and kick all of y'all with its hoof. And once you're bleeding from all that hoof kicking, then only are you going to kick him out, but by then have you not lost your superpower status as a Western democracy? Mamela, you tell me where Islam has ever infiltrated and where that nation is maintained as like quite a handsome, like beefy, juicy, like a steak when you're famished. Superpower. Islam makes countries third world. Do you understand what I'm saying? Islam struggles to maintain superpower status. Persia, Iran was a global superpower at some point. It was the most powerful country in the world at some point. And it got made almost kind of low-key third world. Look at its economy today. Islam makes nations third world, y'all. So what's going to happen to you, Europe, when you Islamifies your crazy countries? Georgia Maloney has got lots up on you. What's going to happen to Africa? Well, Africa is already kind of third world. But yeah, it's just going to stay third world. Because a nation that's that violent, forcing people to turn over to a religion, will always have unrest on the part of the people on the ground. And so if people on the ground are in unrest, there is no building an economy. There's no growing. There is no juicing up and beefing up like that steak. And so given that there's no such thing happening, if the individuals are unprepared to contribute to a nation's economy because they feel stymied by oppression, it is maintained second or third world. So tell me when you're going to ever be maintained as global superpowers, oh Europe, when you accommodate Islam, when they rob a nation of its third world status. When yeah, we need to know. Listen, don't nobody be giving any kind of fair answer over there. We understand that the United Arab Emirates is doing an excellent job and superpowering itself, but the only reason why it is thriving in so a feat as that is because they've got this like palatable version of Islam that is not as oppressive as what you find in Iran. I was listening again to Meira K speaking about all that. In order to have relations with Western powers, they had to not be as despotic, as very extreme Muslim Sharia law type intense, like by conquest, fire by force type Islam countries. And so that's why it's becoming the metropolis that it is now today becoming. It is this like tourist destination that everybody actually considers nice and palatable. So palatable is it that they went and they built that interfaith thingamabobby in their country over there until like Abraham, Ishmael, and Jesus was hanging there in the interfaith building. That could only happen in the UAE because they're trying to create a palatable version of Islam that's not as extreme. But if at all you're gonna go hard on Sharia law, intense, making like Mamdani in New York type Islam, yeah, so it's going to like decrepit ice. Yeah, because I get to make that a word. It's going to mold up your walls. It's going to destroy your plumbing. It's going to make like South Africa and refuse to build electrical infrastructure until we have load shedding. It's going to destroy an economy. So Islam will never ever succeed on earth because by the time the mark of the beast comes, the whole world has been industrialized and Islam does not succeed to industrialize because there's too many riots amidst its very extreme versions. Okay, it becomes nice and too extreme. Okay, so it's raining, Gapanze, but it's alright because listen, everybody's shouted, including my cat. So we're fine. You might hear the rain or you might not, but there is contentment in my bones pertaining all that thunder strike. Okay, so if at all, whatchamacall this here thingy-mabobby, woo! I feel like I've been speaking for 20 years. How long has it been? Okay, yeah. All that censorship is going to produce is, ultimately, if this is maintained as a going concern, which it can't be because then Bible prophecy won't be fulfilled. But if in some hypothetical situation it were to be maintained, all of y'all ultimately go to hell. You might not believe me, but listen to the thing. Feel it in your fingers. Feel it in your toes. Da, 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 da. You're going to hell, hitting the ground running. And so the feeling goes, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The Lord wants to love you, He always will. But your minds are made up, you're gonna thwart Christian Judeo free speech. There's no beginning but the Alpha and the Omega. But you're insistent that you're gonna pretend. So go die and go to hell then, cause that's what you wanna do. Mamilang, you're just not gonna be okay. You're not gonna be fun, you're not gonna be dandy. On the day that you maintain thwarting of the speech of conservatives on earth because you wanna punch a community that is going to absolutely eviscerate the birth rates of nation men in the world. They're going to eviscerate the birth rates of all of our countries because in a gay union, no matter how many babies you can adopt, in a gay union, no matter how many babies you can adopt, and no matter how many IVF procedures you can do to fall pregnant as women, loving women, you will never succeed to bring forth as many children as a nuclear family where a wife keeps falling pregnant year on year in her most fertile days until she's got 7 kids. You will never have such families as those, but Islam will keep producing them. It is too expensive to keep on getting in vitro fertilized, buying a sperm, lesbian couples, for you to have 7 whole chunky babies. It is also too expensive to adopt all those 7 babies at an adoption agency. It's too expensive. So same-sex couples will only ever always have just 2 or 3 children at most. Whereas if people like Avokaraboso that wanted to have 7 kids, because they're all nice and straight and fertile, that you, however, thanks to my politics and my Christian Judeo beliefs, blocked me from having a life at all, and now I'm 41 with a geriatric womb, unable to bring forth seed quickly, that I might indeed bring forth 7 chunky human souls on earth to fill it, occupy it, and redeem the times. I am the thing that the world needs, not more gay families. They can't make babies organically and have to keep on adopting. What you need are straight people filling the earth. So that's what God will do. So your politics are not only thwarting birth rates across the world, but your politics are also increasing Islam on the earth. And that there is not a going concern because it's going to impoverish nations across the earth once Allah takes them nice and over. It's not a going concern. It's not doable. I wish it wasn't raining. It is so loud now and I'm distracted by all that rain. But it's okay. Because at some point it'll shut up. Just shut up like it's the Black Eyed Peas. What you're doing is unsustainable. Global citizenship, what you're trying to achieve is not sustainable. Your big fat secret societies that are trying to squeeze Christ out of the world, squeeze religion, infiltrate anarchy, structures that have absolutely hurt all of our civilization in a spirit of creating a Hegelian dialectic so that you can rock up and rescue the day once you've created chaos. All it will achieve, if at all you're handed over to the strategy, is create a dark ages. The Lord created the world. He made Adam and He made Eve after Adam was made from the rib and everything, and then said, fill the earth, occupy it, be fruitful, multiply, work by the sweat of your brow after they fell, and just do a human thing. This here God who created you, understand you are entirely naive if you think that upon creating you and giving you that decree, that upon going against it, that He will hand the world over to you indefinitely. This is His earth, you're living on it, and He created mankind for the worship of Himself. If you don't want to worship God, you might at some point, for but a mere season, be left in your paganism. But understand, if you're going to be nice and pagan, have no regard for your maker, and so build a Tower of Babel, you will endure economic catastrophes. You don't get to be left in prosperity as a God-hating population. You don't get to eat as a God-hating population. You don't get to harvest crops as a God-hating population. When this is His earth and you're just living on it, you don't get. Look at the Middle East. It's incredibly anti-Semitic, of course, and it is incredibly anti-Christian, but it's also incredibly dry. It's desert land all the day long over there. There's no rain because they are ungodly. But look at the plush land flowing with milk and honey that Israel is. Though they're still in rebellion to their maker, they nonetheless are the apple of His eye, and He will recover them in Jacob's trouble. So God has made out of them a superpower and the only democracy in the Middle East. But everywhere else, it is all nice and deserty. And then, of course, look at Africa. Desert. Because it's pagan as heck. It's evil. It's ungodly. So it's poor. But look at Europe, albeit being cold as ice. Look at it be plush, flourish, wealthy, and the people there are fat and barely poor. What I'm getting at is that despite your country being always cold and so bringing forth snow, if you're righteous, you will bear fruit. But if you have got a sunny continent like Africa, where it'll be nice and easy for you to bring forth crop, because after all, it's photosynthesis, not reliant on the sun. It's giving photo. You nonetheless will have a drought because of you and your rituals, your drums, your strange gods, and your witchcraft. Anywhere where there is honor of God in spite of the climate or Greater Thunberg, you will prosper. So who do you think you are thinking that you're going to eat bread as a global citizenship? Maintain. When you're so pagan, when you're so evil, you're going to endure the dryness of the Middle East. It's giving Arabian desert, and you are going to endure the deserts of Africa. It's giving Serengeti. It's giving Kalahari. It's giving Al-Khrabis. Good dry. All the day long, good dry. All day longer, good dry. No magunelanga, good dry. And so ilanga lives next for photosynthesis when there's no water. 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 So you will be poor. You will be poor. You will be Kalaharified. Kalaharified. You will be parched like a chick after washing her soap with nothing but sunlight green bar soap. Dry girl. Dry. Washing your face with lax. Dry. How old are you exactly? Should be washing your face, got palm olive dry. You will be dry as a desert. No maguna, the kind of climate and the kind of landscape that ought bring forth fruit. So global citizenship, understand that Europe, as cold as you are, you will endure a famine. Precisely because you don't even have enough sun. Because God will even rob you of snow.